program, Baking with Norma Blue Corn Muffins. We're so excited to present what I'm sure is going to be a fabulous demonstration with Norma Naranjo. This project is part of the New Mexico Tradition series from the New Mexico Department of Cultural Affairs. Baking with Norma is also part of MIAC's own Imagine Your Story series, which is funded by the Sternberger Foundation. You can watch previous iterations of the series on MIAC's YouTube page, as well as several other ongoing digital programs that our staff has been really hard at work on over the course of the pandemic. Norma Naranjo, a member of Ohkay Owingeh, is the owner of The Feasting Place, which offers traditional Horno cooking and baking classes out of her home. Her hands-on classes include instructions on baking bread, pies, and cookies, as well as preparing traditional dishes in the Horno. She and her husband, Hutch, are farmers and ranchers. They farm chico corn, blue corn, chile, and many other vegetables that are used in their traditional recipes. Naranjo learned how to cook and bake from her mother and grandmother, from whom she learned to master the art of baking in the Horno. Before I hand it over to Norma, I'd like to briefly acknowledge the place where this conversation is happening, even though we are gathering in a virtual space in Ohkay within the Tewa world. As a non-native person living in so-called Santa Fe, I am a guest in the ancestral homelands of the Pueblo people, and I wish to acknowledge all of the Native people, past, present, and future, who walk on these lands. So I'm going to hand it over to Norma, and we can get started.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone that has zoomed in today or this evening. And I'd like to basically start with making sure that everyone has all the items that the ingredients that we're gonna have this evening in the recipe. And then also, if you have set your oven at 400 degrees, or according to how your oven works, maybe 375. Also, we're gonna be spraying our corn, blue corn muffin tins with some cooking spray. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. So everyone, if you can join me in spraying your muffin pans with some cooking spray, that would be great. So we can get everything organized and ready to go. But before I do that, I like to make sure that all of you are prepared for those that are going to be joining me making the muffins this evening. So you should have 1 cup of blue corn meal, 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 cup of sugar, 1 cup of buttermilk, 4 tablespoons or a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, 1 egg, and 1/4 to 1/2 cup of pine nuts or nuts, and that's optional. Does everyone have all their ingredients? If I can hear from one person. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And right now what I have 1 cup of flour. I'm going to be adding 1 cup of blue corn meal. It's a very easy recipe that you can make with your children or your family, your friends. So this is a good time of the year to get started to do your baking. Okay, I'm going to add to the dry ingredients the teaspoon of salt and the teaspoon of baking soda. So we're going to stir that. On the other bowl, we're going to whisk 1 egg. We're going to add the 4th cup of sugar and whisk that together with the egg. We're going to add, oh Nina, would you get me some milk? And I wanted to share with you, if you don't have any buttermilk, like I don't, ooh. And get me some vinegar down below. We'll add a tablespoon of white vinegar to the milk, and this will make your buttermilk. I know it's not hard nowadays to get to the store and stand in line for one ingredient, so this is an option that you can make for buttermilk. You can also add lemon juice. If you don't have any vinegar, you can go ahead and add a tablespoon of lemon juice. So we're going to go ahead and add that to the wet ingredients.
Norma, I have a question that came in from somebody who's following along. He
I'm
asked,
sorry?
I have a question from somebody who is following along who asked how buttermilk.
1 cup of buttermilk.
Thank you.
And then you will combine the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients, which is the flour, so now if you have an ice cream scoop, you can just pour it into the muffin tin like 3/4 of the way. And this should make about 10 to 12 muffins. And this is where the children can help out. You can add your pine nuts and fold them in, or you can add them in at the end. This make 10. So I'm going to add my pine nuts just on the top. And like I said, you can fold them in at the end if you'd like. And now we're ready to put them in the oven for 18 minutes. You can set a timer for 18 minutes. And while that is cooking, I would like to perhaps give you some tips on what you can, options you can make for different types of items in this recipe.
Norma, before
And
we,
I also would like to have questions.
yes, I'm getting a lot of questions. So why don't we go through those first?
Okay.
Okay, so first question, what you set your oven at?
What's the oven temperature?
The oven temperature is 400 degrees. And depending on your oven, it can be from 375 to 400 degrees, but mine is at 400. It calls for 400 degrees.
Okay, great. And then a question from Kylene. She's asking, do you recommend roasted blue cornmeal?
Roasted
Blue cornmeal.
blue cornmeal? I imagine that would be fine.
Okay.
Because it's usually roasted prior to us grinding it, so it's already roasted.
Okay, great. And then a question from Dawn asks, is the vegetable oil only for the tins?
No, it goes into the wet ingredients.
How much?
1/4 of a cup or 4 tablespoons of vegetable oil.
Okay. And then Christopher asks, when did you add the oil? Because I missed it when you put it in. He has not put in his muffins yet.
Oh, he hasn't?
No, he's asking, yeah.
Okay.
When you added it in.
Okay, so when I added in the vegetable oil was after I mixed the egg and the sugar together. Then you add your vegetable oil and
Dry ingredient.
to the wet ingredients.
Okay, those are the only questions at the moment. So if you want to give everybody some tips, I think now would be a good time.
Okay. As I had mentioned earlier, it's a difficult time for people to get to the grocery store. Stand in line. Sometimes you only need one ingredient for certain amount of recipes that you're doing now for the holidays. So what I would suggest with this recipe, or if you're going to make other recipes that calls for eggs, and if you don't have any eggs, you can use half a banana or applesauce for a substitution of eggs. The other, like I mentioned earlier when I did my mess with the buttermilk, you can utilize vinegar, like a teaspoon or a tablespoon, I'm sorry, a tablespoon of vinegar or a tablespoon of lemon juice. That'll work. And you can just add it to the milk and it'll curdle into like buttermilk. That's what I usually use, because sometimes you just have your buttermilk there and you don't use it all the time. So that's an alternative. Any other questions?
Yes, we have a few more questions that are coming in.
Okay.
One question from Amber, how long did you cook the muffins?
You cook them for 18 minutes. And that's why we have a timer on. And when they go off, you know, they'll be ready to eat with wonderful jams, homemade jams, or a homemade stew, and you're ready to go for an evening meal or make them for breakfast. They're very, very simple to make, as you saw.
And then another question from Claudette is, how much vinegar did you use? I think she missed that.
How much vinegar?
How much vinegar did I use in that cup? You use almost to the top of milk and 1 tablespoon of vinegar.
So like 3/4 cup of milk and 1 tablespoon.
Great. And then another one is someone else is asking about the difference between cornmeal and corn flour.
Cornmeal and corn flour.
Cornmeal and corn flour. Cornmeal is usually just grounded in
Grittier.
a matate, and flour is much finer. It's ground much finer. So that's the difference. And like Lila said, we're farmers and ranchers. We grow our own blue corn in Santa Clara. My husband is from Santa Clara, Pueblo. I'm from Ohkay Owingeh, but most of our farming is done in Santa Clara. And we grow our own blue corn, and we grind our own blue corn meal. We also grow our chicos. It's a small corn that is used during feast time, and many of the people around the area, the Pueblo people, will come and purchase our chicos. We also grow a lot of our chili. We will make ristras with the red chili in the fall, and we also grind it into chili powder and utilize that to make red chili stew during feast time as well. And that's a staple in everyone's home, at Pueblo home. And when you go to a feast, that's the first thing that you'll see on the table is red chili stew. Blue corn is sometimes used for traditional purposes in the Pueblo and other native cultures. But like I said, there's many other dishes that you can use the blue corn, not only for baking, but you can make.
They're asking if you have chicos for sale.
If you can make pancakes with the children, they love those pancakes. You can make atole, when people aren't feeling well and they don't want to eat. You can make that, and it's very nutritious. You can make chakewe. It's like a mush that people eat in the mornings or sometimes in the evenings. So there's different dishes you can make with blue corn.
Absolutely. We have a few more questions coming in, one of which is if you have chicos for sale, and if so, how can we buy them from you?
Do we have chicos for sale? Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay, yes, we do. We have chicos for sale.
How do they get them?
And usually people, I don't know where this person is living, but we can mail them out. Or they can come if they live close, within a state or in another pueblo close by. We can give them directions to our home, and they can purchase it through our home.
Can I put your email address in the chat so people can contact you?
Yes.
Okay, I will do that. And another question that's come in is about the elevation here in northern New Mexico. Does that make a difference for the time or oven temperature?
Yeah, we live in a lower elevation. Santa Fe is at a higher elevation. So yeah, sometimes you'll have to adjust your temperature.
So like if it's lower, how do you do it? Higher or lower?
I think it's low. I have to figure that one out. I think people that live in a higher elevation have to lower it.
Okay, sounds good.
You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Someone in the audience, if they know the temperature of the elevation, if it's up or down, but I think it's down.
Okay. And then another question that's come in is for someone who doesn't have buttermilk, and she's asking what substitutes she can use.
Milk and vinegar.
If she doesn't have buttermilk, like I said, you can substitute milk if you have milk, and then you can just add
Vinegar.
a tablespoon of vinegar to every cup of milk. And that will make your buttermilk. Give it like 5 minutes and it'll curdle. Or lemon juice.
Okay.
Any other questions?
We don't have any other audience questions at the moment, but if anybody does have questions, please keep sending them in. But I have a question for you, Norma.
Okay.
I am wondering what the first thing you ever learned to cook or bake was as a child. I know you learned from your mom and your grandma.
What I learned was how to mix the dough for bread, for oven bread. And I think that most young Pueblo girls will learn that first. And that's the first thing I learned. And then how to make the cookies, the Indian cookies, was the second thing that I also learned.
Great.
But it's really important for our daughters and our granddaughters and our nieces to really learn how to carry on this tradition, the legacy of cooking in the Horno, because many girls nowadays don't know how to even use the Horno, how do you utilize the Horno and figure out the temperature, which is a very key thing to know. You know, it's kind of like your temperature gauge, learning how to do that, but in the outside Horno. Any other questions?
Yes, we now have a few more coming in. Another one asking about what is for sale. Someone is asking if you have blue corn flour for sale.
Yes, it's for sale as well.
Okay, so
yes.
I can email you in the address that I put in the chat to
yes.
talk about the details. Okay. And there's a question if the recording will be available online. Yes, a recording of this will be on MyAct's YouTube channel. So if you missed the first part, no worries. You'll be able to catch up at another time. Let's see what else here. Oh, okay, this is a great question. What is the difference about baking in a Horno? Is it hard to estimate the temperature?
Actually, if you learn how to bake in the Horno, you really have to learn how to figure out the temperature. I do mine with newspapers, and when it comes out a certain color, then I know that it's the right temperature. It's probably around 400 degrees or so. So yeah, I always make these blue corn muffins in the Horno. So, and what's good about the Horno is that it takes less time. If you're going to make cookies, it takes like, instead of 10 minutes, it takes 5 minutes. If you're going to make the blue corn muffins, it'll take about maybe not even 10 minutes to make the blue corn muffin. So yeah, there is a difference. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question from Jean who is asking what you especially enjoy baking in the Horno.
What do I enjoy baking in the Horno? Everything. I enjoy baking everything. Bread, pies, cookies, lamb chops, roasting, chicken, just it comes out wonderful. Making pizzas, that would be a wonderful class to do, because I know children love to do pizzas, and it's a nice way to get your children involved and family involved. My family, we have a day in the summer, in July, that we all come together, and the whole family, children, nieces, everyone comes together and makes pizza, and we just have a great time. So that's something that you can do if you have an Horno in your backyard. If nowadays, you can't go anywhere, you can't go to a restaurant, so to be creative, that's something maybe you can do with your family.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the chat have been asking what other classes you do, either virtually or in person once we move out of the current pandemic. So maybe pizza would be a good one for us to do. It'd be quite fun.
Yeah.
But to answer their question, can you talk a little bit about your other classes?
Yeah, I offer classes that, like I said, we make empanadas, fruit empanadas. We make a lot of dishes, traditional dishes. In the Horno, my classes start with hands-on. And I'm also going to be working on some virtual classes as well. And I'm working on a cookbook. Hopefully it'll be done this coming year. So I really, hope it'll be done and people can follow some of the recipes with the classes. But yeah, the classes usually run from 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning till about 1 o'clock, and it ends with a traditional meal. And you get to take home what you made, what you've baked. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. People come with their own recipes, their own stories, and it's just it's really nice just to get together and mingle with lots of people throughout the world. Okay, the 18 minutes are up. I'm gonna go and get my blue corn muffin. Voila. For those people that followed, I hope yours are already cooked. Like I said, these are mine. And like I said, you can take one out. And I have some homemade jams that I also make. So you can have some butter. You can have one with some pear jam. Enjoy. Good. I have a question for the audience. The ones that followed me, did they already bake theirs?
It seems like from the comments that several people have, but I'm not sure yet. One person has 3 more minutes. A few people have 3 more minutes left.
I'm sorry?
A few people have 3 more minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have
Okay.
several more questions that are coming in.
Okay.
So 2 questions from Debbie. The first one is, do you sell the ash to make the piki? And then Debbie also said she spent at least an hour today cracking pinon nuts to use in the recipe. Do you have a method for doing that quickly?
Well, you can go to the store and get it at Trader Joe's. I know that's not the pinon, but you can buy it roasted at Trader Joe's. Cracked.
And then we also had a question about cast iron. Does cast iron work well in the Horno, or is there any other kind of metal cookware that works better than others?
Oh no, it works wonderful. Any kind of cast iron works wonderful in the Horno. Yeah, because I also make different types of breakfasts in the mornings when I'm baking. I'll put it in there.
And I'm getting a lot of questions
Oh,
about how people can sign up for your classes. And is the best way to do that just to email you, or is there another way?
yeah, they can email me, thefeastingplace@gmail.com, or if they can call me at 505-927-0456. And I also have a Facebook page, The Feasting Place,
And Instagram. And an Instagram.
and an Instagram. I'm not real savvy of this. My daughter is telling me what I have. Familiar.
And you're working on
Well,
your,
why don't you tell them? My daughter's,
no.
I'm
and,
sorry.
And you're working on your YouTube page.
And I'm working on my YouTube page, she says.
Well,
Okay.
there are a lot of people who are really excited about your cookbook and to take one of your classes in the future. So this is great. And I also had 2 other questions from 2 separate people about adding chili. One person asked about adding green, one person asked about adding red. What are your thoughts?
I do add green chili to mine sometimes. So you can do that. I've never added a red chili, but I guess I could try that. And if you do try it, let me know. Any other questions? Oh, Debbie, she asked about the ash.
Yes, yeah.
No, I do not have any of that for sale.
Okay. And there are a lot of questions coming in, so I don't know if we're going to be able to get to all of them. But you touched on this a little bit, and I think a lot of people in the audience would like to hear about the foods that you serve at your feast day.
The foods that we make during feast day?
Yeah.
Is that the question? Well, first of all, like I said, red chili is a staple. We also do garbanzo stew. We also do chico stew with short ribs. We also make pozole. We make potato salad is another staple. I don't know why, don't ask me why, but people love potato salad. And green chili stew is another staple. And then there's various other side dishes that people make and desserts. Bread pudding is another. The pies, the prune pies, the cookies, the Indian cookies, and of course the fresh mint tea. The fresh mint Indian tea is another staple in family homes during feast time.
Great, thank you for sharing.
Any other questions?
So people are starting to have their muffins come out of the oven. Everybody is saying that they're excellent. These are delicious. Thank you. I don't think anybody's went poorly. I think everybody's came out really well. So this is very exciting. I have another question here that's asking, is this recipe similar to the traditional blue cornbread with red chili? If so, how do you add the red chili to the batter? So another chili question.
Like I said, I've never made the red chili in the blue cornbread, so I'm not familiar with that recipe, but I do add green chili to my blue cornbread and to my muffins. Did that answer?
So I think those were all of our questions for now. All that's coming in at the moment are people saying how fabulous their muffins turned out.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that some of you baked the blue corn muffins, and I hope that you enjoy them. And I hope that you can make another batch tomorrow morning, fresh, with your kids, your family, and you can enjoy them, like I said, for breakfast with coffee. It's wonderful.
Okay, well, with that, thank you everybody for joining us. And like I said, I put Norma's email address in the chat and the recipe. So if you would like to get in touch with her and ask her more questions about her cooking classes or the forthcoming cookbook, please don't hesitate to reach out to either her or to the museum. We can connect you as well. So thank you everybody for joining us, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. Have a stay safe. Enjoy your muffins.
Maria was